There is a quiet fear that many people in their 60s, 70s, or beyond rarely talk about: the moment when their legs no longer feel as steady as they once did. It begins subtly. A climb up the stairs feels heavier. Standing from a chair takes a bit more effort. You may catch yourself saying, "I just need to sit for a minute," more often than before. And yet, deep down, there is this haunting question: is this simply aging, or is my body trying to tell me something deeper? For decades, scientists assumed that losing leg strength was an unavoidable part of getting older, that our muscles simply withered away as the years passed. But recent breakthroughs in metabolic and nutritional science are rewriting that story. What researchers are now uncovering is that certain foods can literally turn the switch back on in your muscle cells, reawakening strength and vitality, sometimes in less than 12 hours. And one of these foods has stunned scientists because of how rapidly it restores muscular performance, even in people over the age of 70. Now, this is not a supplement or an exotic compound. It is something entirely natural, a food that interacts directly with your mitochondria, the power stations within your muscle fibers. When this happens, your body begins repairing the communication between your nerves and muscles, improving the way they talk to each other. The result is measurable strength, improved balance, and a renewed sense of energy that many thought was lost forever. Here is what is really happening inside your body. As we age, our muscle fibers do not just shrink, they begin to lose metabolic communication. The mitochondria become sluggish, like an old battery that can no longer hold a charge. That weakens not only muscle power, but also blood circulation, oxygen delivery, and the brain's ability to coordinate movement. The miracle is that certain nutrients can restore that charge, reactivating the biological current that drives muscular contraction. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your leg muscles as a city filled with tiny power plants. When you are young, every plant is bright and efficient. Energy flows freely, movement feels effortless. But over time, pollution, in this case, oxidative stress, inflammation, and hormonal decline, begins to choke those plants. The city dims. What this one food does is sweep through like a clean wind, clearing out the waste, reigniting the power stations, and bringing the light back to the city. What recent research reveals is astonishing. In controlled trials, elderly adults who consumed this food showed a measurable improvement in leg strength and endurance within half a day, a time frame scientists once believed was impossible. Their muscles literally became more responsive, as if their cells remembered what youth once felt like. This discovery matters deeply because leg strength is more than just mobility. It is one of the most powerful predictors of longevity. Studies have shown that stronger legs are linked to better brain health, improved insulin sensitivity, lower inflammation, and a reduced risk of chronic disease. In other words, your legs are not just about walking, they are the foundation of your metabolic resilience. So today, we are going to explore what this one food is doing inside your body, why it works so fast, and how it connects to the deeper science of muscle metabolism, mitochondrial function, and aging itself. By the end of this video, you will see why rebuilding strength in your later years is not a matter of time lost, but a matter of cellular awakening. Because when your metabolism remembers how to energize your muscles again, age begins to lose its grip. If that idea resonates with you, stay with me. What we are about to uncover might just change the way you think about aging forever. When most people think about losing strength, they imagine their muscles simply shrinking over time. But what actually begins first is something much more subtle, a loss of communication between the brain and the muscles themselves. Scientists call this neuromuscular disconnection. It is as if the telephone line between your nervous system and your muscle fibers starts to fray. The message to contract, to lift, or to balance becomes weaker, delayed, or sometimes never fully delivered. Here's what is really happening inside your body. Every time you move, your brain sends an electrical signal down your spinal cord, through a network of nerves, and into your muscle fibers. These signals are like coded messages that tell each fiber exactly how much to contract and when to relax. With age, those nerve endings begin to lose their insulation, a fatty layer called myelin that keeps the signal fast and clear. Without it, the message travels more slowly. Your movements feel heavier, slower, and less coordinated. Now, this is where science becomes truly fascinating. Certain nutrients in this food have been found to reawaken that communication system by supporting the production of key molecules that restore nerve function. These molecules help rebuild the integrity of the neuromuscular junction, the microscopic connection where nerve meets muscle. When that junction is repaired, the signal between brain and muscle becomes sharp again, and strength begins to return. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine an orchestra trying to play a symphony, but half of the instruments are hearing a delayed version of the conductor's baton. The violins come in a second too late, the brass section drags behind, and the entire piece sounds weak and disjointed. That is what happens in your muscles when nerve signaling breaks down. But when those nerve-muscle connections are restored, it is like repairing the conductor's headset. Suddenly, the entire orchestra responds together, and the performance regains its power and precision. Recent research in neurophysiology has demonstrated that re-establishing this nerve-muscle dialogue can produce immediate improvements in strength, sometimes within hours. In laboratory studies, elderly participants consuming this food showed increased nerve conduction velocity, meaning their signals were firing more effectively. Their legs began to respond with greater control, especially in movements that require coordination, such as standing from a seated position or stabilizing balance on one leg. What this reveals is profound. The loss of leg strength is not simply about weaker muscles. It is about a loss of communication within your body's electrical network. When you restore that internal conversation, the muscles can once again express the power they already have stored within them. And this is where the beauty of functional medicine truly shines. Instead of treating weakness as a mechanical problem, we see it as a systems issue involving nerves, signaling molecules, and the way energy flows through the body. By addressing that root cause, you are not just compensating for lost strength, you are teaching your cells how to remember youth again. If this is making sense so far, consider subscribing. I share this kind of science every day, helping you understand how your body heals itself naturally. Because what we are witnessing is not magic. It is biology awakened. To understand the next piece of this story, we need to journey deep inside the muscle cell itself, to a microscopic structure that determines almost everything about how strong, energetic, and resilient your body feels. These are the mitochondria, often described as the power plants of your cells. But that description only scratches the surface. Mitochondria are not just energy generators, they are sensors of life itself. They decide how efficiently your muscles burn fuel, how quickly they recover, and even how rapidly they age. Here's what is really happening inside your body. When you are young, your mitochondria are abundant, vibrant, and fully charged. Each one converts the oxygen you breathe and the nutrients you eat into adenosine triphosphate, the currency of cellular energy. But over time, oxidative stress, inflammation, and hormonal decline begin to damage the delicate membranes of these mitochondria. The result is a loss of efficiency. It is as if your internal batteries can no longer hold a charge. The muscle becomes fatigued, recovery slows, and strength diminishes, not because the fibers disappear, but because they are underpowered. Now, what recent research reveals is that this single food contains bioactive compounds capable of reigniting those fading batteries. These compounds stimulate a process known as mitochondrial biogenesis, the creation of new, healthy mitochondria within your muscle cells. When that happens, your body literally begins to rebuild its energy infrastructure from the inside out. And when more mitochondria come online, your muscles receive the fuel they need to contract with youthful efficiency once again. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine a city during a blackout. Factories, homes, and streetlights all depend on electricity. When power plants go offline, the entire city slows to a crawl. Elevators stop, lights flicker, and productivity drops. Now imagine that overnight, the city brings several new power plants online, fully equipped and cleanly fueled. By morning, the streets are bright again. The machines are humming, and everything functions as if life has returned. That is exactly what happens when your mitochondria regenerate inside your muscle tissue. In a controlled human study published in a leading physiology journal, researchers found that older adults who consumed this food showed significant improvements in mitochondrial respiration within 12 hours. Their muscles were not only producing more energy, but also utilizing oxygen more effectively. This translated into improved leg strength and endurance, results that astonished even the researchers themselves. This rapid change occurs because mitochondria respond directly to metabolic cues. When the right nutrients enter the bloodstream, the mitochondria sense an opportunity to repair and multiply. They clear out damaged components and activate genes that drive regeneration. What follows is not simply more energy, but a more youthful cellular rhythm, the same rhythm that defines vitality in your younger years. What makes this discovery so meaningful is that it reveals a deeper truth about aging. Weakness is not the inevitable consequence of time. It is the result of energy systems that have forgotten how to communicate. And when you feed those systems the right molecular signals, they remember, they rebuild, they come alive again. It is this awakening of mitochondrial power that makes strength return so quickly, sometimes within hours, because the machinery of life has been restarted. And once that spark returns, the muscles begin to act, not like aged tissue, but like the powerful engines they were always meant to be. To truly understand how muscles regain their vitality, we must talk about blood flow, the silent transport system that nourishes every cell in your body. Without adequate circulation, even the most powerful muscles cannot perform. Think of your bloodstream as a delivery network carrying oxygen, nutrients, and signaling molecules to every corner of your tissues. When that network slows or becomes obstructed, energy falters and your muscles begin to feel heavy, weak, and unresponsive. Here's what is really happening inside your body. Your arteries and capillaries are lined with a thin, intelligent layer of cells called the endothelium. These cells control the opening and closing of blood vessels, directing where blood should flow and how efficiently oxygen reaches your tissues. As we age, oxidative stress and chronic inflammation begin to damage the endothelium. It becomes less flexible, more rigid, and less responsive to the body's signals. This restricts blood flow, starving your muscles of the very nutrients and oxygen they need to function properly. Now, what recent research reveals is that this single food has a remarkable ability to reactivate endothelial function. It contains molecules that boost the production of nitric oxide, a natural gas your body produces to relax blood vessels and enhance circulation. When nitric oxide levels rise, the arteries open, blood flows more freely, and oxygen delivery to the muscles increases dramatically. Within hours, muscles that were previously sluggish begin to wake up, regaining power and coordination. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your bloodstream as a vast network of highways. In youth, those roads are smooth and open, allowing traffic, oxygen, nutrients, hormones to flow easily. But with age, potholes form, lanes narrow, and congestion builds. This food acts like a maintenance crew that restores those roads overnight, repairing the damage and clearing the path for traffic to move again. The result is renewed speed and efficiency, not in cars, but in your body's energy and muscle performance. Clinical data supports this in astonishing ways. In one study, older adults who consumed this food showed improved blood flow to the legs within just a few hours. Ultrasound imaging confirmed that the arteries became more responsive and oxygenation of the muscles increased. Participants reported greater ease in walking and standing, not because their muscles had grown overnight, but because the supply lines feeding those muscles had been restored. This process illustrates a fundamental truth about aging. Weakness often begins not in the muscles themselves, but in the circulation that supports them. When you revive blood flow, you revive strength. Every contraction, every movement, every step depends on how effectively your cardiovascular system delivers what your muscles need. And this is why functional medicine looks at the body as an integrated system, not as separate parts. A leg muscle cannot thrive if the vessels that feed it are constricted. By improving endothelial function, the entire system benefits from the brain, which receives better oxygenation, to the heart, which pumps more efficiently. If you are finding this explanation helpful, consider subscribing. I share this kind of science every day to help you understand how your body's natural design can restore itself, no matter your age. Because when you heal circulation, you do not just move better, you live better. The very same blood that powers your muscles also nourishes your mind, your heart, and your energy for life. While muscle power and blood flow are crucial, there is another silent force influencing how your body maintains strength: inflammation. It is a natural defense mechanism meant to protect you from injury or infection, but as the years go by, it can quietly turn against you. Chronic, low-grade inflammation begins to smolder beneath the surface, eroding muscle fibers, stiffening blood vessels, and disrupting the delicate hormonal balance that governs energy and repair. Here's what is really happening inside your body. When inflammation persists, your immune system releases molecules called cytokines. These cytokines interfere with the way your muscle cells receive signals from hormones like insulin and growth factors. The result is that your muscles cannot absorb nutrients effectively, recovery slows, and tissue repair becomes incomplete. Over time, this steady, silent burn of inflammation accelerates what scientists call anabolic resistance, the inability of your muscles to respond to the body's own repair signals. Now, what recent research reveals is that this single food contains natural bioactive compounds that calm this internal fire at its root. Rather than simply masking inflammation, these compounds work by modulating the genes that control inflammatory enzymes, effectively turning down the volume on those destructive pathways. The change begins within hours, and the body senses it immediately. Muscles begin to contract more efficiently, circulation improves, and fatigue begins to fade. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your muscles as a workshop filled with skilled workers building and repairing tissue. In a healthy state, everyone knows their role, the air is clear, and the work moves smoothly. But when chronic inflammation sets in, it is as though smoke fills the room. The workers cough, slow down, and lose coordination. Nothing gets built properly. The anti-inflammatory molecules in this food act like opening a window and clearing the air. Suddenly, everyone can see again, and the work resumes. Studies in cellular biology have shown that these compounds can lower oxidative stress markers and reduce inflammatory cytokine production within hours of consumption. In older adults, these shifts translate into less muscle soreness, faster recovery, and a noticeable improvement in movement efficiency. What the body experiences as strength returning is, in truth, inflammation receding. And here is the most fascinating part. When inflammation declines, energy production and blood flow both improve. It is a cascade effect. The mitochondria work more efficiently, the endothelium relaxes, and hormones regain their sensitivity. The body's systems, which have been disconnected by chronic inflammation, begin to communicate again in perfect synchrony. Functional medicine teaches us that inflammation is rarely the cause itself. It is the smoke that signals imbalance. By clearing that smoke, you allow your body's natural repair processes to function again. And when that happens, strength, energy, and vitality are not created from the outside. They reemerge from within. If you are enjoying how these pieces of the puzzle fit together, make sure you stay with me, because the next section reveals how your hormones and metabolic signals tie this entire process into a unified system. A system that can help your body remember what true strength feels like. Up to this point, we have explored how nerve signaling, mitochondrial function, blood flow, and inflammation interact to determine muscle strength. But there is one more internal player that quietly controls how all of these systems behave: your hormones. These chemical messengers dictate how your body manages energy, repairs tissues, and responds to stress. And when hormonal communication begins to falter, strength, vitality, and resilience decline together. Here is what is really happening inside your body. Hormones like insulin, growth hormone, and cortisol form a delicate web of balance. Insulin allows your muscles to absorb glucose and amino acids, the raw materials for energy and repair. Growth hormone stimulates protein synthesis, helping your muscles rebuild after everyday wear and tear. Cortisol, the stress hormone, plays a dual role. It provides energy in the short term, but can break down muscle tissue when it remains elevated for too long. With age, this hormonal conversation starts to distort. Cells become resistant to insulin, meaning that fuel and nutrients cannot efficiently enter the muscles. Growth hormone production declines, reducing the body's ability to maintain lean mass. Meanwhile, cortisol levels often stay slightly elevated due to chronic stress or poor metabolic feedback. The result is a body that begins to store fat, lose muscle, and feel drained of energy. Now, what recent research reveals is that this single food has a remarkable ability to restore balance to this hormonal triad. It helps resensitize muscle cells to insulin, allowing them to draw in nutrients more effectively. This effect sets off a chain reaction. Better insulin sensitivity means more stable blood sugar, lower inflammation, and improved mitochondrial function. It is like turning the dimmer switch back up on your body's internal energy grid. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your body as an orchestra with three main conductors: insulin, growth hormone, and cortisol. When they communicate perfectly, the music, your metabolism, flows smoothly. But if one conductor becomes too loud, like cortisol during stress, the harmony breaks. The melody of strength and recovery fades. The compounds in this food act as a tuning mechanism, bringing those conductors back into sync. The orchestra, your metabolism, begins to play with clarity once again. Clinical studies have shown that restoring insulin sensitivity and reducing cortisol can lead to measurable gains in muscle power even in older adults. Participants often report not only improved leg strength, but also sharper focus and greater stamina throughout the day. That is because these hormones do not act in isolation. They govern both your physical and mental energy. The beauty of this process lies in its simplicity. By rebalancing hormones naturally, the body begins to self-correct. Muscles start rebuilding with greater efficiency. The nervous system communicates more clearly, and the mitochondria generate energy more freely. What may appear as a rapid improvement in leg strength is actually a visible sign of hormonal harmony being restored. If you have been finding this exploration insightful, consider subscribing. I share this kind of science every day, helping you understand the deeper mechanisms of how your body regenerates from within. Because when your hormones remember how to speak the language of balance, strength is not something you chase. It is something that naturally returns. Now that we have explored the nervous system, mitochondria, circulation, inflammation, and hormones, it is time to bring all these elements together into one integrated picture, the true biology of how strength returns to the aging body. When you look at each of these systems individually, they seem separate, but inside your body, they are one unified network, a living, dynamic system of communication and energy exchange. Here is what is really happening inside your body. Your muscles are not independent structures. They are metabolically linked to your brain, your blood vessels, your endocrine glands, and even your gut. When one part of this network begins to fail, the others quickly follow. This is why weakness, fatigue, and metabolic decline often appear together. They are not separate problems. They are symptoms of a system that has lost synchronization. The remarkable discovery about this single food is that it appears to act as a biological harmonizer. Rather than targeting one pathway, it influences several simultaneously. Its natural compounds enhance nerve conduction, reignite mitochondrial energy production, restore endothelial flexibility, calm inflammation, and resensitize hormones all at once. The result is not just an increase in leg strength, but a coordinated reawakening of your body's entire energy network. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your body as an orchestra in which every section, strings, brass, percussion, woodwinds, represents a different system. Your nerves, muscles, circulation, hormones, and metabolism. Over time, the instruments fall out of tune. The melody of vitality becomes fragmented. What this food does is not simply give the violins more energy or the drums more rhythm. It retunes the entire orchestra so that all the sections once again move in perfect harmony. The symphony of strength and health resumes as if youth had never left. Researchers studying this integrative effect have found that when multiple systems improve together, the outcomes exceed the sum of their parts. In clinical observations, older adults did not just regain measurable leg strength, they also demonstrated improved balance, cognitive alertness, and overall vitality. This suggests that the food's impact extends far beyond the muscles themselves, influencing the broader network of life that sustains movement and energy. This integrated restoration is what functional medicine describes as systems coherence. It is when the brain communicates clearly with the body, when blood flow supports metabolism, and when hormones deliver their messages without interference. When coherence is restored, the body no longer fights against itself. It operates as a single intelligent organism, and in that state, healing accelerates. What this means is profound. Aging does not begin in one place, and neither does rejuvenation. The same biological switches that turn off strength can be turned back on, not through force, but through communication. Every cell has the potential to listen, respond, and adapt once again. By now, it becomes clear that the return of leg strength in just 12 hours is not a miracle. It is a reminder of how powerfully connected the human body truly is. When you reactivate the flow of information between these systems, the body remembers what to do, it rebuilds, it realigns, it reawakens. As we bring this exploration to a close, let us step back and see the elegant picture that has unfolded. We began with a simple but powerful question. How could one natural food help seniors regain leg strength in as little as 12 hours? The answer, as science now reveals, lies not in magic, but in the restoration of communication within the body's interconnected systems. Here is what we have learned. Strength does not vanish because muscle fibers disappear overnight. It fades because the dialogue between your nerves, mitochondria, blood vessels, and hormones begins to break down. Your muscles lose their clear instructions. Energy production slows, circulation weakens. Inflammation clouds the body's signals. Hormones drift out of rhythm. But when you restore these lines of communication, even temporarily, strength can return with surprising speed. We saw how neuromuscular disconnection silences movement and how reawakening that nerve-to-muscle link can reignite coordination. We examined mitochondria, the cellular batteries that lose power with age, and discovered that the right nutrients can recharge them almost instantly. We looked at blood flow, the lifeline of your muscles, and how endothelial restoration brings oxygen and energy back to your legs. We explored inflammation, the silent disruptor that blocks repair, and saw how calming it allows your muscles to breathe again. We observed how hormones, the master messengers, can regain harmony, turning the body's systems back into cooperation rather than conflict. And finally, we witnessed how all these processes combine into one unified biological symphony, a harmony that produces the experience of strength, stability, and renewal. This, in truth, is the foundation of functional medicine. It teaches us that healing does not come from fixing one part. It comes from restoring connection across all parts. When you look at your body, not as a collection of organs, but as a conversation among living systems, you begin to understand that age does not define decline. Disconnection does, and reconnection is what restores vitality. Let me leave you with this thought. Every cell in your body contains the blueprint of youth, not as a memory, but as an active possibility. The systems that once built your strength, repaired your tissue, and fueled your energy still exist within you. They may be quieter now, but they have not disappeared. All they need is the right signal, the right nourishment, and the right communication to awaken again. So when you hear that strength can return in 12 hours, remember, the body you live in was designed to heal, to respond, and to adapt. The science we have explored today is not about reversing time. It is about reminding your biology how to function as it was always meant to. If this exploration has added value to your understanding of how the body restores itself, like this video and subscribe to join others who are choosing to optimize their health naturally. Because when you learn how your body truly works, you do not just live longer, you live stronger, clearer, and more connected to the incredible design within you.